There have been some results that have demonstrated in other parts of the country that a semi-long-term assignment is what is needed in order to have the process be effective. There are some that are 2 years, and then there are some that, by the parties' agreement, are indefinite. Most of them have a defined term, however.
I like the idea of having it continue indefinitely unless both parties agree to terminate it or a court terminates it. That way,
I agree.
You know, that I think would be ideal. What is your, how is your role defined in this court order or this contract?
The role specifically is defined by the court order in telling us what issues we're supposed to focus on. There's some general language which talks about how we can make a minor scheduling modification, for example. Should this Wednesday be an overnight? We cannot change an entire custody agreement or make major scheduling changes. There's also language in the order that can be inserted special to the case, such as that the parenting coordinator will address what sports activities the child will engage in. We'll work with the parties to determine who the pediatrician and dentist will be, whether or not the child has orthodontics, whether or not the child is able to engage in a specific activity that the two parents don't agree upon, or if a child can get a passport and travel overseas. I mean, things like that come up all the time.
So some of them are actually defined, but I'm sure there's a lot of issues that come up that are not specifically defined.
That's true.
Right? And that doesn't prevent you from discussing it with them if they both want to talk to you about it, right?
It depends. The pilot project is very clear that there are limitations on what a parenting coordinator can and cannot do, and the general guidelines that are being circulated for part of the, I guess, the requirements of the role talk about what we can and cannot do. For example, a parenting coordinator is not supposed to touch financial issues.
Right.
Some will tell you that if there's a small financial issue or it's enforcement of something that's already in the property settlement agreement, like a division of a cost for orthodontia,
right,
a parenting coordinator can do that.
Now, do you recommend to resolutions to all these little issues? How does it work?
My goal is to get the parties to reach an agreement on their own. And my goal is to help them each understand where the other person is coming from in their respective positions. If I can do that and effectuate a compromise, that's best, because not only are they more satisfied because it's their compromise, in addition, they've now learned a tool. They've learned the trick or the art of communication, and it worked. So they get excited, hey, we did this, we can do this, and they're more likely to do it again the next time. If they can't, I will make suggestions, I will throw out ideas, I will give them things to consider and try to be creative. And if all of that doesn't work and I can't sell something to them where they're willing to voluntarily do it, then I absolutely will make a recommendation. I'll call it.
Okay, and the discussions that you have with everybody, are they confidential or are they not confidential?
They are not confidential. Anything that occurs in parenting coordination is discoverable. A parenting coordinator can be called to testify. A parenting coordinator, when making a recommendation, is supposed to do so in writing with an outline of why they made the recommendation that they did. And very often, if those people do go back to court on that issue, the recommendation becomes part of the court record for consideration by the judge.
That's a good model of a program, because if somebody's acting unreasonably, you're going to spot it, you're going to report it, right?
Absolutely.
And so there's a little pressure on everybody to be reasonable with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a good incentive.
Right. Everybody's trying to gain your favor.
Absolutely.
So to speak.
It's like a campaign.
Right, absolutely. You ever feel like a punching bag?
Oh, absolutely.
I was thinking about that on the way to the show tonight, that you've got two aspiring parents, you know, jabbing each other, right? And you're like the referee in the middle, you know, breaking them, trying to break them apart, and they're still throwing punches, and you're getting socked.
Which is very amusing, because I'm not even 5 foot tall. Most of my clients are taller than I am. Most of the children I work with are taller than I am. It can be complicated. There are times where people come very close to really heated arguments,
Yeah.
or they come. We've had people almost come to blows where I've had to tell them to sit down, or I've had to ask somebody to leave. I had one couple where I had asked the man to leave because it was getting very heated, and he was becoming very irate, and it looked like it was going to come to violence. And rather than sitting in her seat and allowing him to leave, the woman got up behind me and pushed as far as she could get behind my body, which caused him to come back into my office and come as close to my body as he could to try to get at her. And I'm in between the two of them trying to keep them from...
That's the punching bag.
Yes. It was not pretty, but, you know, I did emerge victoriously.
Now, do you talk to the children?
I do. Not all parenting coordinators do. I start with a mindset that I can't make recommendations about the best interest of children whom I have never met. So what I do is I go to each parent's home and I meet the child very informally with the parent, much as a guardian ad litem would do. I do not discuss substantive issues with the child, such as, you know, what do you do with mommy, or who do you like better? Obviously none of that, nor is that appropriate. I meet the child. I get to see what color their room is, whether they have a computer. Do they have pictures from a soccer team all over their wall? What do they talk about? Is the first thing they discuss hockey and how much they love hockey? Do they talk about their favorite foods? Do they show me around the house? What do I observe about the rapport between the parent that they're with at that time? And then I do the exact same thing with the other parent. My purpose for doing that is a foundation, so that now when the parents come into my office and they say, oh, well, you know, she's forcing her to play soccer again for the 4th year and my daughter hates soccer. And the mother says, no, she loves soccer and this is what she wants to do. You know, my response is, I've now met this child. This child's room in both houses was filled with soccer memorabilia. All the child talked about was soccer. I now have a frame of reference.
You now know.
I know something.
What's the most interesting experience you had as a parent coordinator?
Probably I would have to say that I had a case where I was working with a family where one of their daughters was in her 20s, and the daughter was getting married. And the daughter called me on the phone herself, and she said, Ann, you've been working with my parents. They don't listen to anybody but you. I want you to come to my wedding. And we negotiated an arrangement whereby I sat part of the night at the mother's table, part of the night at the father's table, and there were a couple of disputes during the evening at the wedding, and I was able to intervene and keep the parents from getting into it, and the daughter had a lovely wedding. She had a very, very nice day, and there were no problems.
Did your husband go with you?
He did not. I actually wasn't married when that occurred. But,
what a great night. You're, you know, dancing, having a nice dinner, and getting paid. What a great job you have.
I also brought a gift. Another interesting case that I had involved a communion for a little girl, and the mother and father couldn't agree on who was going to sit next to the little girl at the communion. So they agreed that I would come to the communion and I would sit next to the little girl, and then
then you had to go back and forth, right?
It was interesting, but you know, probably not the ordinary, probably not something most parenting coordinators would do, but it made it a better event for the little girl.
And that's what it's about, right?
For me, it is, yeah.
And we've run out of time. I told you this would go fast. I want to thank you very, very much, and good luck in your new aspect of your career.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your inviting me.
Thanks again for watching. My name is Mark Gruber. This is Law Talk Today. If you have any ideas for future shows, email us at info@lawtalktoday.tv. Again, thanks for watching, and good night.